Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. We are exploring a really fascinating topic that experience when you are deep in thoughts, listening to music or watching something, and you think you hear someone calling your name. You take off your headphones, look around, and no one else still. Strange, right? Today, we are diving into the science behind this common experience that happened with us. We will talk about selective attention, phantom sounds, and other quirks of the mind that make these experiences possible. So, let's get started. So, let's start with the selective attentions, right? So, this is nothing, it's in a mental process where your brain filters what's important and what's not, only focusing on a specific details while ignoring the rest. Imagine selective attentions like a spotlight. It allows you to zoom in on something specific while everything else fades into the background. Think of it as your brain's way of managing the overwhelming amount of information coming in every second. Now, let's define phantom auditory perception in simple terms. Well, essentially, it's when you think you hear a sound that's not actually there. But our brain sometimes generate these sounds on its own. And it's phenomena that's surprisingly common, right? And no, it doesn't mean anything it's wrong. It's simply a quirk of how our mind process and interpret information. So what part of our brain is responsible for processing these sounds? Well, primarily it's in the mandatory, not, but primarily I think I forgot the word. Uh, ah, the auditory cortex. Primarily, it's the auditory cortex, which is located in a temporal lobe. Think of the auditory cortex as the brain's sound processing center. Every time we hear something, this part of our brain decodes the sound waves and gives them meaning, like recognizing someone's voice. But when we are deep in concentration or wearing headphones, the brain sometimes predicts sounds that are not there, resulting in those phantom voices. Now, another important player here is the reticular activating system, or RAS, located in the brainstem. This system is like the brain's alert center. It helps us stay aware and responsive to important stimuli, especially sounds like our name. And the reticular activating system, RAS, has a filter that prioritizes certain sounds, which is why we can hear someone calling our name across a noisy room. Now, if we go even deeper, let's talk about the brain's tendency to fill gaps in the system, right? So, if we dig deeper and find that our brain's tendency to fill in gaps, our minds are constantly making predictions, especially about sounds we expect to hear. This prediction mechanism happens automatically, and thanks to what's called predictive coding. Predictive coding is a theory that suggests our brain constantly trying to predict what's happening in the environment. When we are used to hearing something like our parents' voice, it can trick us into hearing it even if it's just our imagination. All right. We can also actually observe these brain processes in a real time using functional MRI or fMRI scans. In fMRI, we can see which area of our brain are active. The researchers have found that even when we only imagine sounds, part of auditory cortex still lights up as if we actually heard them. It shows how closely our brains treat real and imagined sounds. Let's move to another interesting concept, the cocktail party effect. This is our ability to focus on one sound like a conversation at a party while ignoring all other background noise. The brain is amazing. The brain is amazing at picking out relevant sounds, especially names, while filtering out distractions. This effect is one reason why you might pick up on your name even if you are deep into music or a movie. Let's get into sensory bubbles and why headphones amplify this effect. Headphones isolate sound, creating what we call a sensory bubble. This is an environment where outside sounds are blocked. So, we are highly focused on one auditory source. In this bubble, our brain sometimes overcompensate, filling in gaps with familiar sounds or phantom perceptions. This sensory bubbles effect can even cause something called auditory hallucinations, which is when we hear things our brain makes up. This might sound intense, but auditory hallucinations are actually a spectrum. On the mild end, these are common in everyday experiences like hearing your name when no one's calling you. At the extreme end, they can become symptoms of certain mental health condition like schizophrenia. Let's dive into how the brain sometimes relies on previous experience to create these phantom sounds. We often expect certain sounds in a specific situations like someone calling our name when we are in another room. Our brain uses past experience to make quick assumptions, which sometimes result in a false positives or a phantom sounds. In psychology, this concept is known as schema-based processing, where we use mental framework to fill in gaps. A similar phenomena happens with phantom phone vibrations or anxiety. This is when we think we feel our phone vibrating or hear it ringing when it's not. This is because our brain is so used to expecting those signals that it sometimes imagines them. This is very similar to phantom voices we are talking about today. And there are also something called hypervigilance that can lead to these phantom sounds. Hypervigilance is in a heightened state of awareness, often associated with stress or anxiety. And when we are anxious, our brain can become overly alert to potential threats, making us more likely to hear something that is not there. It's our brain's way of staying ready for anything unusual. Then there is the concept of synesthesia, which is a cross wiring in the brain that causes people to experience one sense through another, like hearing colors or seeing sounds. While not exactly, but the brain's ability to mix sensory inputs help help or explain how we sometimes misinterpret sensory information. So, to recap everything we have discussed today, selective attention, our brain's predictive nature, the sensory bubble created by our headphones, the cocktail party effect, schema-based processing, hypervigilance, and even concepts like anxiety or synesthesia all contribute to this happen phenomena. All contribute to this phenomena. And the next time, if you think you hear someone's calling your name, remember it's just your brain's being its complex, hyper alert self. And lastly, thank you for tuning into this deep dive into the science behind selective attention or phantom voices. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe for more deep dives into the mind and human behaviors and other stuffs. Until next time, keep questioning, keep listening, and stay curious. Thanks for watching and listening.